Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a little bit of a different video today. I wanted to do one on gaming. There's a new update for EVE Online coming up on November 18th, and EVE is a game that I've played on and off for many years. I've never really considered myself very good at it. It was truthfully only recently when I started back up again several months ago that I started to better understand the game, and so I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on it and some things about the new patch that look interesting or that are kind of, that I don't think are that great. I feel like my biggest problem with EVE is it's very expensive to get into the fun parts of the game. So, for example, you can spend a lot of time as a new player, someone who doesn't have tremendous wealth, trying to acquire resources, and after you've acquired those resources, you invest in a ship. And because EVE doesn't really have any safe places, even in the areas that are considered safe, what they call high sec, it's very easy to lose your investment. And you can lose your ship in a matter of minutes, where it can take you days, if not a week or two, to acquire the monies to purchase that ship. So it makes it very hard to participate in fun activities, and it creates a gameplay loop where, as a player, you find yourself being very risk averse. So things that should be fun, things that shouldn't be pain points like losing a ship, become reasons why you don't want to play anymore. So I think that's a huge problem with EVE, because if a lot of your players, now granted you have, and keep in mind this is my perspective as someone who has not played at the expert level, right? I'm not part of a big giant corporation. I'm not multi-boxing, right? I don't have 5 accounts mining or doing missions or in Pachvin space doing these activities, these anomalies that are worth $1 billion, right? And so I find it very difficult to acquire wealth and to justify purchasing a ship and losing it. And actually, if you see the vessel I'm flying right now, it's just a Heron. This is an exploration ship, but it's dirt cheap, so I don't mind losing it because I know that I could buy it back really easily, and it still does the job for at least the activity I'm doing at the moment, which is I'm scanning things down, right? So this activity is I do enjoy this activity, but it can be very frustrating because you can spend inordinate amount of time scanning things down only to have nothing to show for it. Or you could find something and have your ship blown up and lose your profits, right? And that's another thing with EVE, and that's what makes it so difficult to acquire money so that you can purchase ships, so that you can play the game, right? Is that it takes a long time to acquire the wealth, and part of that reason is because you can be blown up doing it, right? You can be blown up and lose everything, all the loot you acquired, because you weren't able to get back to the station to vendor it. And that goes for any activity. If you're a miner and you're mining, it can be very dangerous. Even in high sec, there are literally gangs that roam around looking to gank noobs and blow up their ships, and the experience is wildly frustrating for a player. But that doesn't mean mining can't be fun, and that's the thing, is fun activities. And obviously, one of the things in EVE that is fun is getting a new ship, flying a new ship. And so, you're always trying to make money so you can buy that new ship and fly it and test it out. Go fight what they call rats, which is like NPCs that are, in certain areas, and blow them up. I have not found ratting, which is the term they use, to be lucrative at all, even in null-sec space. Null-sec space is basically an area of space where corporations run by players own the landscape. So anytime you go into nullsec, you're venturing into what they call like alliance territories and things like that, where you have these massive corporations that have formed alliances and they're all battling for territory and supremacy, right? So if you're kind of in a smaller core, or you're playing sort of solo, it's very dangerous. And so again, all these dangers and the amount of time it takes to acquire wealth create behaviors that try and avoid or minimize loss. And so, well, how do you minimize loss? Well, one thing is just don't undock, right? But then who wants to play like that? You're not playing, you're just paying a subscription fee, right? And so, I find that to be very problematic, because I think if Eve had a lower barrier to entry, meaning it was okay to lose ships, or ships weren't as expensive, and you could feel comfortable losing them because you could do several missions and get the money back and then go back out there and fly again and engage, then yeah, okay, who cares if Eve is so dangerous, right? Because I know I can get my ship back, and it's not going to really set me back. So I'm willing to play with it and lose it. And what does that mean? Well, I'm willing to engage in PvP, right? Because obviously, like I said, there's no safe space in Eve, so this is very much a PvP-oriented game. So if you want to have fun, then maybe fun comes in the form of PvPing, but you don't want to PvP because you can't afford the loss. Now, corporations will try and offset this, right? If you join a larger corporation, they'll have like buyback programs. If you fly the ship that they do, then they'll buy it back. But that brings me to another thing, is that a lot of corporations have restrictions. They want you to play a certain amount of time. They want you to go through these hoops and these authorization processes so that they can verify you are who you say you are, and then they want you to partake in their fleet ops and things. They want you to get I can't remember the term they use, but they want you to get a certain number of points every month, or to remain in the alliance or in the corporation, and if you don't, they'll get rid of you. And so if you're more of a casual player, you want to kind of do some PvE stuff, you want to do some ratting, you don't want to go on those missions because you're really kind of PvP averse, you're not a very good PvPer maybe, or maybe you're just too afraid to lose the ship because it'd be too expensive for you, even if they're willing to pay it back, or again, time being a factor. Let's say the roaming or the fleet mission is several hours, and you don't have time for that, right? Because you've got other things going on in life. So you want to sit down and do some mining, or you want to sit down do some PvPing, or you want to sit down and do some exploration. Well, you are at a loss. You won't be able to stay in that group. They'll kick you out, and that's happened to me. I'm more of a casual player, and I also I'm not a big PvP fan, although I'm not opposed to trying it, but certainly what keeps me away from it is how expensive it is, how punishing the losses can be. And when you're a new player, you're toast. There are people that have been playing this game for, decades, and they're veterans, and they'll smoke you. So it's like, there's no contest. You're just going to get railroaded, and so you better basically be okay losing your ship. And so, that's kind of been my experience with Eve. It's a love-hate relationship. I personally find exploration to be fun and kind of relaxing. I have lost ships during exploration. I've had other either what they call Tech 3 cruisers come in and smoke me, or I've had, sometimes even the Sister of Eve ships will come in and just ask, I'm not going to use any inappropriate language, but yeah, they'll blow you up. Even though you're a fellow explorer like them, they don't care. You're in their way, you've got loot on you, or you're trying to take their loot, done. So it's very unforgiving. And unfortunately, I don't seem to be finding any signatures here. And I kind of went through this space hoping to find something, but I am not finding anything. And there was a Crimson event that just sort of ended recently, and that had some really cool sites in high sec, and that was an awesome upgrade, because even though the payouts weren't great, at least it was there was an abundance of sites. It's very hard to find lucrative sites in exploration, which makes it frustrating. You could spend a lot of time and not have much to show for it, which again adds to that difficulty of sort of acquiring loot to purchase those ships where you can then maybe have a different kind of activity or fun, like PvPing or going out and ratting and being okay if someone kills you. Yeah, that's my kind of hate part of the game. But things that I do like, the combat is kind of fun, even though it's more like passive in the sense that you target and you blast, and there's some techniques to it, orbiting, velocities, trajectories. You don't want to head straight on, you want to kind of go at an angle. And there's things, knowing things about different ships, different like missiles versus turrets. There's kind of like a method to the madness, and so the more skilled players will they'll take advantage of that. And if you're a rookie, well, yeah, be ready to lose. But yeah, so anyways, there's a new patch coming up that they're going to be releasing on November 18th, and it's a mining patch. And there's a video on YouTube about it. They're trying to make mining more engaging, which is cool. They're adding things like critical strike. It's still a very small percentage, but that's cool. You can crit strike. They're making the resource, when you gather it, be more responsive, so you get it in shorter intervals, right? So you don't have to complete that, because when you mine right now, there's like a whole 3-minute cycle for some lasers, and then some of them are like 2 minutes if it's like the frigate. And that you're sitting there for 3 minutes just whistling, and you're talking, you mine with people, you're talking to other people, unless you're like a multi-botter and you have like 10 mining vessels and you're mining by yourself with like 10 screen. But again, to me, like when you're playing the game like that, it just is like a job, right? You play games to have fun, not to feel like you have to invest an inordinate amount of time to get to the fun, right? And that's one of my criticisms about the game. Is the amount of time that it feels like you're doing a job, and then you lose your cool new ship you bought in 5 seconds, and you're like, oh great, now I have to do this all over again. That's not fun. And so it's funny, because in the new mining video that they released today, I actually have it up right here, there's a part in it where they talk about they want to make it more dangerous, right? And so more unpredictable, and I'll show you the video part. But I mean, to me, that's ironic, because mining is already dangerous, even in high sec. Like, people are looking for miners. You go to Pochfin, or you're in nullsec, if you're not in an alliance or something like that, and even if you are, people will drop in on you and just smoke you, and that can be frustrating if you don't have a lot of income, and that can make you not want to play. But they're talking about here, let me see if I can find it.
Value, no matter
asteroid. When phased in, the asteroid can be that the phased angle
there to enjoy the most is the chaos. Like, you find a site that someone has abandoned with a phase anchor still sitting there. Do you use it, or do you set an ambush? The PvPers are going to be all over these sites too, because once the sites go public, they know exactly where to find active mining ops with all these crazy valuable ships on grid. So yeah, the disruption to routine, the meaningful risk, and the potential for everything to go sideways, that's what's really cool about it.
So I would strongly disagree. That's not cool. Like, why would I, as a PvEer, just wanting to mine and do an activity that I find fun, think at all that this is going to be fun, that you broadcast my location where I'm mining these new things to everyone, so all these empires and alliances and mega corporations can just come and obliterate your mining fleet? Like, what? I mean, where do you... That's not fun at all. Now, of course, the PvPers are like, yeah, Eve is so great, this is why we love Eve. Okay, fine. But I mean, if you're trying to engage a larger audience, if you want more people to play, you want a more vibrant, more alive universe, creating new systems around chaos and people getting their shit blown up when they already struggle. So this new activity could be fun, right? But me as a player, and maybe a smaller corporation, is not at all going to be enticed by this. And so once again, it's going to be content for the mega alliances, the big corporations that can support and defend these types of mining operations. And most of your casual players, or most of your new players, or smaller cores and things can't do that. No, I mean, you are going to get destroyed, okay? These people will come down on you as soon as they know your location. She even says, I think there's tons of valuable... You're in there with your valuable ships. Let me see if it's here.
With the Catalyst expansion, we're focusing on the
scoopable.
most is the chaos. Like, you find a site that someone has abandoned with a phase anchor. Do you use it, or do you set an ambush? The PvPers are going to be all over these sites too, because once the sites go public, they know exactly where to find active mining ops with all these crazy valuable ships on grid.
Okay, so here comes the pinata, right? So I don't know. I'm the mining patch and some of the things they're doing looks exciting, but then that kind of stuff, that kind of mentality and sentiment to me is just bizarre. You know, again, maybe the patch isn't intended for someone like me. It's intended for the people that have been around forever and will keep playing no matter what. And this is right up their alley. Up for the multi-boxers, maybe, who can have, like, you know, control their own capital ships and all their mining stuff. Whatever. I mean, if that's the way it's intended, okay. You know, but if you ask me as kind of a casual, sort of in-and-out player who tries to enjoy the game, but then keeps getting reminded that it's just too penalizing and it just is too much of a job before you can even get into the fun. So, you know, I would enjoy EVE much more if I could get into the fun stuff without so much having to worry about losses. But losses are so penalizing and take too much time to recover that I find myself more trying to acquire wealth than really actually doing the things that are fun, which may, again, be PvP. I don't know. I find mining fun, but I don't like getting blown up and then having to spend inordinate amount of time trying to build that wealth up doing other activities. Missions, for example, PvE missions, even level 4 PvE missions, you got a battle cruiser or battleship, they pay nothing. Absolute garbage rewards. The vessels you destroy pay nothing. Takes forever to loot the ships. The loot that drops is garbage. It's like it's designed to be slow so that it's excruciatingly painful to get some wealth so that you can buy that ship back up that you lost doing what you were having fun doing. So, I don't know. Again, I may not be the target audience for this game. I don't know why I come back to it occasionally here and there. But I just wanted to share some thoughts, and I wanted to do a different video today, some video game. I actually apparently entered a site here, so if you haven't seen Exploration before, you know, you get on over, you know, do a little scanning, see what's inside of it, scan this ship here. There's nobody in this system right now with me, so this has about 1 million worth of loot. And I have done sites in Pochven too. They drop different things. They're different types of sites. This doesn't have any money in it. This is the closest one, but it had nothing in it, so I'm just going to abandon it. This one's got 11 million, and it's the one I'm going to, so we can go ahead and tap into that real quick. So, pull this up. Okay, I got to use the relic, I think? Yeah. So you pull this up, you know, go through this. It's a little game you play. You got 2 chances. When you're doing this, you typically want to be looking out for, you know, people coming in to gank you, right? So I take all the loot there. I've got some loot from the event and whatnot on me. You know, you want to be looking in local, making sure no one's kind of come in. And then you want to periodically, what they call deep scan, so it just scans kind of around your vessel like this. So, you know, if you see combat scanner probes or sister scanner probes in the scan result, you know that somebody is scanning down the area you're at. So you got to be careful, because, you know, that could cost you your life. So this one here, this rubble had nothing in it, right? So it's just a dud. Let's see what this one has. Does this one have anything in it? This one's got 7 million, you know, so we can loot that too. We got to play the little game again. So you see, I spent some time going around. Obviously, I'm talking while I'm doing this, but I spent some time flying around, trying to find a site. So, you know, it takes time, right? This is not like, and you see the amount of money I'm making here, right? So you'd have to run a lot of these to really find anything of significant value so that you can afford a nicer ship, right? But again, I'm flying a dinky ship that if somebody blows me up, I'm okay with it because I've got nothing of value. really on me. And I'm risk averse because I don't have the financial support to afford these ships that are worth hundreds of millions. Some of them are worth billions, okay? Like battleships and pirate battleships and navy ships and yeah, they're just inordinately expensive. And so, I'm risk averse in that sense that I can't afford those losses. So let me turn off the micro warp drive. So that was just a little site. Wasn't very much in there. I think I got 15 million out of it, basically. Took me about 5-10 minutes to find the site. And you would do this over hours and hope that you don't get blown up along the way so you can get back to the station to sell the things. And I've had times where I've gotten blown up after spending hours, maybe collected 150 million. Maybe I wasn't very lucky. I was going through nullsec, hitting up different sites, collected 150 million, got blown up, lost it all, So it sucks because all that time is gone. And now, granted, the ship I used was garbage, but the loot it had on it was good. So, anyways, I think the new patch for Eve will be good for miners, but I think that a lot of players such as myself won't be able to take advantage of what they perceive as a new exciting frontier for mining, because I think it favors large groups of players who can support those types of mining operations, who can absorb the losses that may come from a battle defending those things. So in that sense, it's very exciting if you're watching Eve and you're watching these high-level groups play in battle. But when you're talking about your player base, your everyday player, maybe who's not as invested like that, who plays casually, who wants to participate in fun things, it's not as exciting. There's some new ships coming with the patch. There's a new Sister of Eve ship. There's a new mining destroyer, I believe, and they look cool. New ships are always cool. I love new ships. I think one of my biggest complaints against Eve is there's not really any civilian activity in space. It's all just these military and industrial groups flying around, but sort of the civilian ships, because if you had these giant stations, I mean, obviously people are running the stations, right? You don't just have war and military and industrial, you have civilians, right? I mean, that's how societies work. You can't just be industrial and military. You got people, who do foods, and janitor, and teaching, and whatever, right? Develop things, that's more industrial. But, so there's no civilian ships, right? You can't buy, the equivalent of, a civilian yacht, just fly around. You've got no guns, but look at me, I've got this fancy, sweet civilian ship, I think the game would be kind of cool if you had more than just industrial and combat ships and exploration, right? And maybe as a player, a PvEer, right? Instead of PvPing, you try and blow up those civilian ships that are flying between stations and things like that. And maybe, sometimes there's rare spawns of civilian ships, then those vessels have they have a chance for some really good loot, So instead of going out and fighting other players, you're kind of, you're sort of doing a PvE activity. And instead of fighting pirates and nullsec or things like that, you're just, you're adding spice to low sec, high sec areas of space. Now, how do you balance that with Concord? Would Concord engage you if you attacked an NPC civilian vessel that was traveling, through high sec? I don't know. Maybe you say that Concord doesn't respond to those incidences. I don't know. And so that, as a PvEer, if you see something like that, those civilians may have their own protection, right? But you have to fight that, or maybe Concord is the protection, and if you destroy that, then you can loot that vessel, something like that. It'd be kind of cool, right? Say I'm here by the gate, and there's just civilian ships coming through, right? It's not a player, it's not it's not a pirate, it's not a drone, whatever. It's just it's a civilian ship, and it's coming through, and there's and there's just traffic, right? That'd be kind of cool. So, anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I did something a little different because I felt I really am passionate about gaming. I play different games, and I kind of wanted to share my thoughts on this because it just kind of came to my mind. Eve isn't the only game I play. I play other games and probably do some videos on those in the future, but that's what I want to talk about today. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want more video kind of gaming content, let me know. I can share my thoughts. Let me know what you thought about my thoughts. If you disagree, why. If you're a veteran, if you're a new player, if you've tried Eve and you have similar concerns or different, be interested in hearing this. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and see you in the next video.